In Monster Hunter World, there are many aspects to consider when taking on a hunt. The target, your weapon, these are all important, but hunters who want optimal performance need to consider the build they use via the armor and gear they wear. I'm Darcblade and here are even more builds that I use for the Insect Glaive. The skills that you can gain from armor and even some weapons can help shape your hunter into specialized hunting machines. With the Insect Glaive, the weapon is a master of mobility, delivering fast attacks to a monster whilst at the same time being able to dodge incoming foes. On top of that, it can buff itself to enhance its damage output, and on top of that, it is one of the unique weapons able to make use of a lot of aerial moves. The builds I use tend to capitalize on its mobility, enhance its damage, and sometimes even enhance its abilities in the air. So the first build I use is the Elementalist build version 2.0. This is an all-rounder build that focuses on using Elementalist weapons. It has high DPS thanks to having high affinity, but also has a little bit of survivability thanks to having a higher health pool and health regen options. So for this build you need the Draken Armet Alpha, the Nergigante Male Gamma, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Nergigante Coil Gamma, and the Nergigante Greaves Gamma. I'm also using a Master Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Darcblade Paralysis. This has an affinity increase augmentation attached to it. As for the jaws, there is a lot to play with here. Firstly, I've gone for Tenderizer jaws to max out the weakness exploit, an Elementalist jaw to give us that non-elemental boost, critical jaws to max out the crit boost skill, a mighty jaw to max out maximum might, vitality jaws to max out the health boost, and this will leave you with 2 more jaws to play with, to which I've gone for challenger jaws. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will actually be 200 health when you're on a hunt and you've taken all the relevant consumables. You have an attack of 766 with blue sharpness. Unfortunately, this weapon cannot get to white sharpness. You have 65% affinity, which will be 100% when you're on a hunt, and you have full stamina and you're attacking monster weak points. You have no element, a blunt boost kinsect bonus with a very high defense that isn't particularly weak to any element. As for the skills, you have Critical Eye level 5, this will increase your affinity. Attack boost level 4, when going for attack boost always try to get it to level 4 as it not only provides you with that attack boost to the build, but it also gives you an extra 5% affinity. You have Health boost level 3, giving you that potential 200 health. You have Crit boost level 3, Crit boost increases the raw damage of an attack when you land a crit on a monster. You have Weakness exploit level 3, Weakness exploit increases the affinity by a certain percentage when you hit a weak point. At level 3 it's an extra 50%. You have Agitator level 3. Agitator increases your attack and affinity when a monster becomes enraged. You have Maximum Might level 3, increasing our affinity so long as we have full stamina. You have Airborne level 1, increasing our airborne attacks. And you'll have Non-Elemental Boost level 1, increasing the build's attack so long as the weapon's element or ailment is hidden, as is the case with the Darcblade Paralysis. You'll also have the following set bonuses: Nergigante's Hunger, Hasten Recovery, allowing our attacks to restore a small portion of health, and you'll have Soul of the Dragoon, Elemental Airborne, which normally increases the elemental portions of attacks when you're attacking in the air, but it's wasted on this build unfortunately. So there you have it. As you can see, it's a straightforward all-rounder build. It does have decent DPS potential thanks to its high affinity. Now some people may argue why I've gone for maximum might here. It's because the Insect Glaive normally does its highest damage when on the ground. However, when Agitator kicks in and the monster becomes enraged, you can also make use of the airborne playstyle. Obviously when you're in the air, maximum might can't really take effect because you're using stamina to keep yourself in the air. But the lost affinity is made up a little bit by the Agitator skill, so whilst airborne you'll still have potentially a decent affinity rating. Of course, there is room for changes. You can drop Agitator altogether if you so wish, getting rid of the Challenger jewels, as well as potentially the Master's Charm. This will allow you to take a different skill such as Peak Performance if you so wish. This would increase your DPS potential even more, but I tend to only go for Peak Performance if a build has decent health regen, and whilst this build does have a little bit of health regen, it's not enough in my opinion to really warrant taking Peak Performance. Nonetheless though, this is a great build for solo play and for taking on most endgame hunts, especially because you don't have to worry about a monster's elemental weaknesses. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Shah DPS build. This is a build that makes use of any of the Shah or Kiar weapons found from Arch-Tempered Kulftaroth. For the purpose of this video, I will be demonstrating an Ice Elemental DPS build. So for this build you need the Draken Armet Alpha, the Nergigante Male Gamma, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha, and the Draken Greaves Alpha. I'm also using a Frost Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Shah Glaive Ice. This has a health regen augmentation attached to it. As for your jewels, These are mostly DPS ones. First of all, I've gone for Tenderizer Jaws to max out Weakness Exploit, a Mighty Jaw to max out Maximum Might, an Expert Jaw to give some extra Critical Eye, an Attack Jaw to get Attack Boost to level 4, a Critical Jaw to max out Crit Boost, and finally a Sharp Jaw to provide us with that Protective Polish skill. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 642 attack with white sharpness, 65% affinity, which is actually 100% when you're on hunt, and you have full stamina and you're going for monster weak points. You'll have a maxed out elemental ice rating of 310 with a Kinsect bonus elemental boost. You'll also have a decent defense, especially against thunder and dragon, but you're fairly weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you have critical eye level 5, attack boost level 4, ice attack level 3. Ice attack basically increases the ice elemental rating of this build. You have critical boost level 3. Now remember that critical boost does not affect the ice portion of our attacks, it only affects the raw attack portion of our attacks. You have weakness exploit level 3, maximum might level 3, power prolonger level 1, a byproduct of the gear, but it can be useful for the Insect Glaive as it increases the duration of our Kinsect buffs. You have Airborne level 1, Protective Polish level 1. Protective Polish allows us to put a protective coating over our sharpness gauge, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration. And you have Critical Element level 1. Critical Element, normally found on the Rathalos set, allows for the elemental damage portion of our attack to be increased when we crit a monster. So think of it like crit boost, but for the elemental portion of our attacks. You'll also have the following set bonuses: Soul of the Dragoon, Elemental Airborne, increasing our elemental damage while we're in the air. And you'll also have Master's Touch, preventing any sharpness loss when we crit a monster. So there we have it. As you can see, it is a very powerful build, not only making use of high elemental damage, but we also have fairly high raw damage, the two combining into a very powerful DPS build. Of course, there is room for changes here. For example, you don't have to use the Char Glaive Ice, you can use another Char weapon, whether it be elemental or ailment, but if you do swap it out, remember to change the Frost Charm to match whatever element or ailment you are using. Also, if you are switching to an ailment weapon, then you won't have critical element, you'll have instead critical status, which does basically the same thing as critical element, but applies to the ailment you are using. Also, you don't have to go for the sharp jaw if you don't want to. Protective polish is a little bit wasted when you are using Master's Touch, especially if your build does have high affinity, as is the case with this build, but you have to take into account that when you are airborne, maximum might will not be in effect, and thus Protective Polish can come in quite handy. Nonetheless though, if you prefer to stay grounded when you're playing the Insect Glaive, you can drop Protective Polish if you so wish. For something else, you can add an extra level to Power Prolonger if you so wish. The choice is up to you. But nonetheless, this is a powerful build, especially when you take into account a monster's weakness. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Earplug Build. This is a little bit of a quirky build, allowing for high DPS and that quality of life earplugs bring to a hunt. I do like using earplugs on the Insect Glaive, as one of my pet peeves is being knocked out of the sky by a monster's roar. So for this build you need the Basil Helm Beta, the Draken Mail Alpha, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha and the Draken Greaves Alpha. I'm also using a Demolition Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Empress Cane Sticks. This has an affinity increase augmentation on it. As for your jaws, I've gone for Earplug Jaws to max out the Earplug skill, Tenderizer Jaws to max out the Weakness Exploit, a Critical Jaw to max out Crit Boost, an Attack Jaw to get Attack Boost to level 4, and an Expert Jaw to add some Critical Eye. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, you'll have 673 attack with white sharpness, 55% affinity, which is actually 100% when you're on a hunt, and you're going for monster weak points. You have a 260 blast rating with a Kinsect bonus speed boost, with a decent defense especially against thunder and dragon, but you're a little bit weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you have Critical Eye level 7, Earplugs level 5. At level 5, Earplugs ignores all monsters' roars, and during their roar animation as you're free to move, this leaves them open to attack, or allows you time to retreat and heal. You'll also have Attack Boost level 4, Blast Attack level 3, Blast Attack increases the blast rating of a build, you have Crit Boost level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Power Prolonger level 3, a byproduct of the gear, but like I said in the last build, it is useful for allowing us to keep those Kinsect buffs for longer. And you'll have the Razor Sharp skill level 1, which is normally found on the Xeno'jiiva set bonus. Basically this reduces all sharpness loss by half. You'll also have the following set bonuses: Elemental Airborne, which we've already mentioned in previous builds, but unfortunately doesn't really affect this build as this build is using an ailment, not an element. And you'll also have Master's Touch, preventing any sharpness loss when we crit a monster. This combined with the Razor Sharp skill should see minimum sharpness loss altogether, whether you're in the air or on the ground. So as you can see, it is a pretty straightforward ailment DPS build, but it does have that quality of life thanks to the earplugs. Like I said, being able to ignore a monster's roar altogether will stop you from getting knocked out of the air if you prefer the airborne style of play, or as I mentioned, it will leave a monster open for your harder hitting combos, or even give you a chance to retreat and heal. Of course, there are room for changes if you so wish. For example, you can drop Demolition Charm if you wish, reducing your blast attack of this build, and instead take the Earplugs Charm. This will free up 3 large jaw slots for you to play with. So you can put in a flight jaw for the airborne skill if you prefer that style of gameplay, or even go for peak performance. The choice is up to you as always. Nonetheless, like I said, I do enjoy this build as it provides that little bit of extra quality of life that earplugs can bring to endgame hunts. Anyway, let's move on to the 4th and final build, which is the health regen build. This is a survivability build focused on health regen. It is also a build that can be used on the ground or in the air, as it does have a few DPS options. So for this build you'll need the Emperor's Crown Gamma, the Valhazak Mel Gamma, the Valhazak Braces Beta, Valhazak Coil Gamma, and the Empress Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Handicraft Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Empress Cane Ruin. This has a health regen augmentation attached to it. As for your jaws, there's a mixed bag here. First of all, I've gone for Vitality Jaws to provide that health boost, Tenderizer Jaws for that weakness exploit, a Flight Jaw for that airborne skill, Medicine Jaws for that recovery up skill, Recovery Jaws for that recovery speed skill, Attack Jaws to get attack boost to at least level 4, and a Sharp Jaw for that protective polish. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will actually be 200 health and 200 stamina when you're on a hunt and you've taken all the relevant consumables. You have 704 attack with white sharpness, 5% affinity, which is actually 55% affinity when you're on a hunt and you're going for monster weak points, with a blast rating of 120. You'll also have a Kinset bonus speed boost, and for your defense, you'll have a strong defense especially against water and thunder, but you're a little bit weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you'll have attack boost level 4, health boost level 3, recovery speed level 3. Recovery speed basically increases the rate at which our health regens naturally over time. Normally this applies to only the red portion of your health bar after you've taken a hit. However, with the set bonus we're using on this build, it applies to the entire health bar. You'll have recovery up level 3, increasing the effectiveness of our healing overall. You'll have weakness exploit level 3, handicraft level 3, increasing the sharpness of our weapon. You'll have peak performance level 3, increasing our attack so long as our health is full. You'll have wide range level 2, a byproduct of the gear but can be useful for when playing in groups. Wide range is a key support skill as it will allow a portion of your consumables to be passed on to your allies. You'll have dragon attack level 1, a byproduct of the gear but unfortunately it's wasted on this build. You'll have airborne level 1, protective polish level 1, hasten recovery level 1, which is normally found on the Nergigante set bonus. This allows us to restore health when we attack a monster, and it does stack with the health regen augmentation. And you'll have the following set bonuses of Valhazak's Vitality, Super Recovery, allowing for our entire health bar to regen itself naturally over time, not just the red portion of our health bar. And you'll also have the Lunostra's Favour, Stamina Cap Up, increasing our maximum stamina to that potential 200. So as you can see, this is quite a strong build when it comes to survivability. There is also a lot of quality of life skills used here. For example, the Stamina Cap Up set bonus allows airborne players to stay in the air for longer. But this build's main focus is on survivability and health regen. Not many monsters will be able to one-shot you when using this build, and even if you take a heavy hit, rarely will you have to sheath your weapon to take a potion. You can instead just keep attacking the monster, and through the Valhazak set bonus, recovery speed, recovery up, hasten recovery, and our health regen augmentation, it means that our health bar will recover itself quite quickly. Of course, this build does lack a little bit when it comes to DPS. It does make up for it a little bit thanks to the fact that you can keep peak performance active, thanks to being able to regen your health. But unfortunately this build may not bring down monsters as quickly as some of the others in this video. However, on the flip side, rarely will you fail a hunt with this build, even against the toughest of monsters out there. So there we have it, those are even more builds that I like to use for the Insect Glaive. Of course, Monster Hunter World is always being updated with new monsters and gear, which can potentially cause these builds to change and become even stronger. So when major updates happen to any of these builds, I'll be sure to release an updated video. Also remember that almost any task in Monster Hunter World can be taken on with any weapon and gear set. You don't have to use what is shown in these videos. These are just the sets that I personally like to use. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you even more builds that I use for the Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter World. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.